Let's look at this controversy surrounding the coalition of opposition political parties in Nigeria sequel to 2027 presidential election. And they more talked about the candidate or the party. I think it's becoming very clear that the North is in a clandestine move to force Nnamdi, to compel Nnamdi to deputize the former vice president, talking about Nnadi Atiku Abubakar, because information coming out from the media space suggests that Atiku will definitely going to contest that election. And we all know what Atiku can do when it comes to the pocket. But I will responded to most of all these things. Before I will allow you to listen to Obi. But let us look at news leading to all of this. Let me read from People's Gazettes. He's saying, youth, women to get 70% appointments in my presidency. That's coming from Nnadi Atiku Abubakar. He go further to say that former vice president and 2023 presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has vowed to appoint more youths and women in his government if elected in 2027. That is coming from Nnadi Atiku Abubakar. So like I told you earlier on, I will allow you to listen to Obi, but before we listen to Obi, let me bring another pointer to show you that they not have concluded plan that definitely an Atiku is going to contest that election. Now, I am going to be bringing the perspective of the former governor of Jigawa State, talking about Suleiman Lamido, who is saying that if Obi gets the ticket of the party, talking about African Democratic Congress, that he will support an Obi. Of course, that is a clear indication that Atiku is going to contest. We shall analyze all of this with respect to another aspect that is coming from a northern youth who has actually said, yes, Obi is the man to go there. But meanwhile, let us listen to Obi himself. And Obi hinted that if elected, he does not see any reason why Nnamdi Kanu is still held in captivity. Listen to Obi as we come back to further this conversation.
Government have borrowed more than government of Jonathan Buhari put together. Some government officials in this capital of Abuja commissioning post station where we lost 20-something soldiers in Niger. Is commissioning road more important than our soldiers that are dying? I don't need a day more than 4 years.
So we don't belong to a gang of states?
No. I was the governor for my first 4 years. I drove 406. For the rest of it, I didn't drive a bulletproof cars. Nobody decided to kill it. You're doing the right thing.
Would this be canvassing for a political solution to the case of Nnamdi Kanu?
Why is he being held? It doesn't make sense to me.
You are an ADC member or a Labour Party member?
I'm a member of this, and I'm going to work with this group.
You are thinking of being a running mate to Atiku. Is that the case right now?
You are welcome back. Let me allow you to listen to this northern youth who have made it very clear that of all the contenders of that position in the coalition, that Obi stands out. That Obi should be given an opportunity to pilot the affairs of Nigeria. I think that is a good one. But let me allow you to listen to him. We'll come back to further this conversation.
I feel, in short, let me just tell you the truth, I feel it's high time we even give the people like Peter Obi trials, not minding antecedents or whatever. And in terms of antecedents, using the comparison method, he's still better than a lot that are still in governance today. And if you say they are bad eggs, they are bad politicians that are coming together, agreed, show me good politicians that are in the system. Abi, show me credible politicians that have performed more than what nobody else have done. So it's the same thing.
So if you are still thinking that an Atiku Abubakar will not contest that election, I think it's an illusion at this point. Looking at the information coming from Atiku Abubakar himself, talking about how he hopes to run his government. Because if you are not interested in contesting, if you want to support Nnamdi to contest, I don't think you'll be talking about giving 70% to women and youths in your government. And again, another pointer is this one that came from the former governor of Jigawa State, talking about Suleiman Lamido, saying that he will support Obi if Obi emerged victorious in the party primary. We all know what Atiku stands for when it comes to contesting primary in Nigeria. Of course, it's like he's a master of the game. We saw what transpired in 2023. Of course, and Obi have to leave that party before the primary, having seen the handwriting on the wall, that definitely they are zeroing in on Atiku. And at the point, he defected to Labour Party, and of course, the same will be they touted that he didn't have structure, he's not on ground, put surprise by going by the result INEC gave him, because nobody accepted that the result of INEC was genuine. But going by the result of INEC, he was still able to secure 6.something million votes. So the point here is, if you go into that election, talking about the primary of that African Democratic Congress, definitely Atiku has deep pocket. There's no argument about that. I'm not saying he's not qualified to contest. But what we are saying is, when the youth saw the coalition, what elated their minds is because they saw Nnamdi embracing it. And they hope that Nnamdi will be allowed to fly the flag of the coalition. Because coming to general election, there's no argument. The generality of Nigerians would definitely put behind Nnamdi. Because if you look at the South, Obi is very popular. His popularity is growing by the day. The Southeast is no go area. In the Southwest, of course, we saw the show he put up even in Lagos. And if you go to the North, you can understand that the North are now yearning for Obi more than what we had in the last election. Of course, I think Nnamdi is a man to beat in this election. And again, looking at credibility when it comes to prudence management of resources, I think that is working for Obi, because this is a man who, of course, after leaving office, he cannot trace anything. I'm not saying it's said, don't get it twisted anyway, but after leaving office, with all the opposition mounted against him, even by the government in power, nobody has been able to indict him to the point of dragging him to anti-graft agencies to answer one or two questions. So you're going to show that to an extent, Nnamdi is someone we need at this material time. And again, talking about cutting the cost of governance, I think Obi have the history of cutting cost of governance in his time as a governor of Anambra State. He did that. There's no argument about that. And he left a good amount of money behind for his predecessor, talking about the man that took over from him. I think that was Obiano also. Then again, what is important at this point is all the members of the opposition, not just the opposition, every lover of democracy, every lover of the principles and tenets of democracy must at this point realize that the only way you can have free, fair, and credible election in Nigeria is if the Electoral Act is further amended. Because we understand that Section 82 of the Electoral Act currently, as we have it, confers the discretionary power on INEC, of course, the umpire, who decides the mode of transmission of election results. And you can recall that in the last election, the basis for which the election results were contested was because INEC gave excuse of network glitch at the nick of time. And as we have it, INEC collated the results manually. And that was the basis for which election result was contested up to Supreme Court. But this time around, for us to have free, fair, and credible election, in my opinion, we must amend the Electoral Act further, particularly that Section 82, to compare INEC by the Constitution, that you must transmit election results electronically, else the result will be null and void. Because we, as a matter of fact, we must reduce the level of human interference in our electoral process. That's the only way we can enhance credibility in that electoral process. Because the politician will always allow you to vote. After voting, the process of collation, that is manual, that is when they start all the manipulation. Because we understand that in the process of, when it comes to election management in Nigeria, you have the police, the DSS, the army, of course, the INEC, which is the umpire that uses the Electoral Act. They are all answerable to the executive arm of the government. And in the election, you have someone, of course, a city president who have an interest. It's not about the man who is in Asurok currently, it's about the process. Because anybody in Asurok at any point in time where you have that electoral act that is susceptible to manipulation, as a Nigerian politician, we know the person will always take advantage of that. So that's why we are saying, let us amend the Electoral Act in such a way that the umpire will have no excuse but to transmit election results electronically. And once that is done, of course, it will enhance the credibility of the electoral process. And again, for me, who wins the election is not important. Because if you have a free, fair, and credible process, any person that wins the election, it implies that that is the person and the government the people want. And of course, they should be ready to live by it. But again, if people have the ability and tendency and possibility of manipulating the process, and they latch on to those possibilities and manipulate the process, of course, I'm going to tell you that that is part of the reason Nigerian politicians, Nigerian office holders, political office holders do not regard Nigerians, of course, who have the power to hire and fire. Because at the end of the day, they will be looking at it that they are not reverting to you for votes. They know that they can have their way. Of course, I must tell you that if that is even the reason we see politicians harvesting governors, harvesting House of Assembly members, National Assembly members, senators, instead of going to the electorates, who of course have the power to hire and fire in terms of their right to vote. We have seen it in recent time when the Delta State government, the former governor, the incumbent governor, we empty all the structure of PDP into APC. And of course, at the time, they made us to understand that they wanted to liaise and align with the government at the center. That is laughable anyway. We only saw a similar thing in Akwa Ibom, where the governor, talking about Eno, have to equally empty all the structure of PDP into APC. And as we have it, the governor of Enugu is equally touted to be having the same intention, though we have not seen him going to the extent of defecting. We equally heard that this governor of Adamawa is equally not seeing the same intention. Okay, do not forget that recently the same governor of Adamawa stripped Atiku Abubakar of a very highly respected title, talking about the Waziri of Adamawa. Of course, at the time, people speculated that it has political undertone. So in all of this, I think what is important as a people, as a country, is that we play by the rule. And the only way we can play by the rule is to ensure that we have the best, or one of the best, or the world's best electoral acts. Because who say we cannot even go by electronic voting if we have leaders who are ready to allow things to be done the way it ought to be done? But we are not even, for now, agitating that we must have electronic voting. But at least the one we have currently, let us ensure that the process of collation meets best world standard. Of course, anything short of that will render the whole process not being credible. Because at the end of the day, if we go into the next round of election, talking about 2027 presidential election, governorship election, National Assembly election, we'll come back to still saying the same thing we said after 2023 presidential election. That is why we need, as a matter of urgency and necessity, to address this issue now before the coming election. But again, I must say that I'm a little bit disappointed in the opposition political leaders, talking about Atiku himself, even Nnamdi himself, even the man Amici, the former governor of Rivers State, even the Sule Lamido of Jigawa, even the former governor of Kaduna, talking about Nasi Erufai, even the former Attorney General of the Federation, talking about Malami, even the former Secretary of the Federation, talking about Babachi Lawa. By now, I was thinking that they would have all come together to galvanize, to start, to put pressure on the National Assembly. Of course, Nigerians will be waiting to see someone who take the lead, to put pressure on the National Assembly to do the needful. And to do the needful is to amend the Electoral Act in such a way that the electoral process will be more credible. Because to do that, I'm going to tell you that the whole essence of coming together in form of opposition, in form of coalition, in form of alliance, the alliance, for me, is going to be a mirage. Thank you very much.